Hello everyone, this is part 7 of What If Naruto Got a New Teacher After Training Trip, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. They all awoke early for training knowing Dasara would wake them anyways. Toma, Naruto, and Hinata did 4 laps around the town with Inari and 5 inside of town so Inari could show them around and kill off 2 birds with 1 stone. Hinata enjoyed the sights and the sounds of the people as they laughed and relaxed, unlike the stories she was told last night. Inari smiled at this, happy that his big brother's girlfriend was happy. He looked to Naruto to see him taking in all the new sights and sounds, and Toma who just stared off into space as if he were in deep thought. It's so nice here. Hinata sits on the ground under a tree and looks to Inari. Has it been this way ever since Naruto-kun's first mission? She asks the young boy who sits next to her. Yeah, everything when Naruto and the others showed up. Inari smiles up at Hinata. I'm happy that they came, they helped me so much. Well, that was nice of them to help you. She smiles down at him and looks to Naruto and Toma who are sparring in the small field in front of them. She smiles when Naruto pins Toma down on the ground. You know you aren't going to get anywhere if you keep fighting like that. We're not fighting, Toma says quickly, but Naruto tackles him and wrestles him on the ground. We're working on hand-to-hand combat, Naruto says and looks to Hinata and gives her and Inari his wide grin. She sighs and looks to the house, noticing Dasara approaching them. You guys, I'd stop, Dasara-sensei is coming, Hinata says and gets to her feet. Inari watches as all 3 of them go up to Dasara as if she were giving him a mission. He watched intently as Naruto sighed and rubbed his head and Toma folded his arms across his chest. Before Inari could say anything more, the 3 of them went off into the woods towards the small spring with Dasara following. Inari followed behind them, trying not to get caught. He stopped when Dasara looked back in his direction, but when she turned her head away he began to follow again. Inari hid in a bush watching as Hinata and Toma got into the same stance and began to run through a series of hand signs. Hinata and Toma match each other's speeds as they both yell out a jutsu at the same time. Holy Arts. White Maiden Jutsu. They yell and 2 giant angels form behind them. Inari watches them as he stares in amazement. Toma and Hinata disperse the angels and look to one another smiling. Naruto watches as he begins to form the Rasengan in his right hand. The Rasengan begins to spin with fire, wind, and lightning coming from it. Naruto smirks as he charges at Toma. Toma evades the Rasengan and the Rasengan hits a tree, breaking the tree into really small pieces that are on fire. Hinata sighs as she hurries through some hand signs. Water style. Water Dragon Jutsu. Hinata calls out and the water dragon hits all of the small pieces on fire and puts the fire out before it hits the ground. Naruto rubs the back of his head, giving her an innocent look. She puts her hands on her hips and looks at him. Sorry Hina-chan, he whispers to her. She smiles warmly and he relaxes, and when Dasara clears her throat they both look at her. Now, since you 3 already did your jogging, I want 500 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, and 450 jumping jacks. Naruto, I want you work on channeling your chakra into a thin line through this tree 100 times. Dasara says. But Naruto starts, but she see him off. Hinata, I want you to work on your speed so you'll be running up trees with these 200-pound weights on, then you'll do 50 laps around the town after the 100 tree runs. She looks at Toma and smiles. And you get to do the same as Naruto, try to channel your chakra into fine lines. She drops the weights for Hinata on the ground and walks back to the house. Naruto sighs as Hinata begins to put on the weights. You know Hina-chan, it's gonna be hard trying to do all those laps, Naruto says as he helps her tie them tight to her lower leg. So, I've got to at least try to do it. I know you can do it, but it's gonna be exhausting, so try to be careful. He whispers and stands up straight. Ready Toma? He looks at Toma and smiles. Before they knew it, Toma and Naruto were racing to see who could get done first. Naruto closes his eyes and begins to think. Flashback. I'm not losing to you, Sasuke team. Naruto yells at the Uchiha standing next to him. The 13-year-old boys continued to give each other death glares as Kakashi sighed and Sakura watched while cheering Sasuke on in her head. Before anyone could think about kicking the S out of each other, Kakashi began to explain the training. Now what you need to do is get to the top branch on the tree without using your hands. He smiles, closing his one visible eye in the process. Fine, Sasuke says quickly and looks away from Naruto. When Kakashi yelled begin, the two boys ran at the tree hoping they would beat one another only to fail and fall to the ground. Kakashi runs a hand over his face until he notices Sakura at the top. You both lost to Sakura, Kakashi said, and the two boys quickly looked up the tree Sakura climbed to find her up at the top sitting on the branch. Ha ha team. Naruto laughs at Sasuke as the Uchiha looks to him, giving him a powerful death glare. Shut up Dobe. She beat your ass too. Sasuke growls. Sakura giggles lightly as the two boys fight below. I'll beat you Sasuke bastard. Naruto cheers as he charges at the tree again but fails. They each kept charging at the tree as Sakura walked up the tree with ease watching them. End flashback. Naruto opened his eyes to see his tree broke with tons of little holes in it, unable to understand how he did it. He looked to Toma to find him staring at him, wondering how he did it. What did I do? Naruto asks him, but Toma only stares in disbelief. Well, first you zoned out and started mumbling, and before I know it you go shooting chakra out of your index finger, chopping the damn tree in half like you were some sort of psycho man who thinks he's God. Toma says in disbelief as Naruto stares at him for a moment. Wow, I wonder how I did it. I don't know, just next time try to stay awake when you do. I mean, I don't want to end up being a puddle on the ground. Toma says, and Naruto looks to him. I bet you will harness it before you. Naruto says, but Toma ignores him. No you won't, I mean you don't know how to control it, so why the hell would you be able to beat me? Because I know what brought it out. Naruto smiles. Training in the mist went on for weeks that consisted of staying out late and coming back to Inari's exhausted. Hinata had dragged the two boys home countless times. As the weeks passed, the boys' chakra control increased and Hinata had become almost as fast as Lee in his normal stage. The night they were to leave to the grass village, Inari, Tsunami, and Tazuna threw a giant party for their friends leaving. Tsunami had invited some of the people the group had helped during their stay, and Naruto was embarrassed when everyone started saying how cute he and Hinata were. As they headed out for the grass country, Inari gave them food, which Naruto ate almost immediately, pissing Toma off since the food was for everyone. You know, I've never been to Grass Village. I mean, they don't have real fighting ninjas, only healers. I'm wondering if we can really learn anything there, Naruto says as he folds his arms behind his head. Of course you can learn something there, protection jutsus, trap jutsus such as springs and such, and Hinata can work on her healing jutsu while we're there, so stop complaining. Toma says as he shoves his hands in his pocket as if he was still upset about Naruto beating him. You two stop it, you act as if you're married. Hinata says as she folds her arms across her chest. I'm serious, maybe you two should date or something. But Hina-chan, Naruto whines, thinking that she would leave him. Don't worry, I was just kidding. She smiles warmly and wraps her arm around his arm, knowing she was too short to wrap an arm around his shoulders since he was now 6 feet tall and she was still about 5 feet 6 inches. She sighed when she thought about how she had grown. Yeah, she was a woman now and they only had a year and 4 months left, but she had noticed how she and Naruto had changed. Toma hadn't changed much except his hair a little shaggier, but she had changed a lot. She smiled at Dasara, who stayed quiet ever since they left. You know what? I hope they have some food that's really great tasting. I miss Tsunami's cooking already. Naruto groans and Toma and Hinata laugh lightly. Yeah, but you know Naruto, once you have their food you may never have it again. Toma says, but Naruto pulls Hinata into him and smiles. No, I can try to convince Hina-chan here to cook the dishes for me, which I surely know she would do. Yeah, of course Naru-kun. Hinata smiles as he pulls her out of her trance. Well, you three need to keep your head in the game. Dasara says quietly. All three of them look at her and watch as her eyes stare blankly ahead down the road and her arms stay folded over her chest. Is something wrong, Dasara-sensei? Hinata asks, and before she knows it, Dasara turns her head to look at them. Of course something's wrong. You all act as if things won't change when you back, that you don't understand that you could very well in the heat of battle, never knowing the touch of a loved one, of having all your hopes and dreams slide down the drain. Of course you need to relax, but in these times you have to be serious about what is going on. She says, and they all stare at her. Dasara sensei, Hinata starts but is see off by Dasara. No apologizing Hinata. A ninja does not apologize to another, they only show that they can do better. Dasara says quickly. Hinata stays quiet and looks to the ground. Naruto wraps his arms around her and looks to Dasara, giving her a death glare. Don't even start that, Naruto. You know it as well as I. You will be K out there if you don't keep your head in the game now. I've given you more than enough time to get along with one another, and now you'll train as hard as you ever had. She says and turns away from them. Toma watches her, wondering why she was being this way. The next few days were very hard on the three Chunin. They tried to stay away from Dasara as much as possible, afraid she might do what she did days before. Hinata had been working with a few medic ninjas from the grass village at the hospital, learning what Tsunade did in her training with healing major injuries. Naruto and Toma trained with a few stone ninja who had been sent there as ambassadors for the grass village. Each night for a week the boys would return around 10 p.m. and Naruto would go pick up Hinata at 12 p.m. After a week and a half of this routine they finally saw Dasara. She was outside talking to a Konoha ninja. Naruto and Hinata were curious as of who it was, so they snuck out and hid in the bushes, leaving Toma unaware of what they were doing. Naru-kun, who do you think it is? Hinata whispers to the blonde who is kneeling next to her. I don't know, it's too dark to see clearly. When they begin to move we'll see who they are. Naruto whispers and peeks through the bushes to find Dasara walking away and into her hotel room. The Konoha ninja begins to walk away as Naruto and Hinata follow slowly in the dark of the night. As the ninja gets close to the edge of the village, Naruto sees his face, recognizing him in a blink of an eye. Naruto jumps out before Hinata can say anything. Naru, she starts, but he see her off. Pervy sage. Naruto yells, pointing at the ninja. The ninja stops abruptly and turns to face Naruto, revealing the face of Jiraiya the Toad Sannin. Master Jiraiya. Hinata exclaims happily as she comes out and stands next to Naruto. Well, if it isn't Konoha's last hope. Jiraiya smiles. You know, Dasara has told me a lot about your training and how you convinced her to join Konoha. Not only did she tell me that, but she told me about how you're not taking this serious. Jiraiya folds his arms across his chest and watches Naruto and Hinata as they look to the ground. But don't worry about it, you still have more than a year to get serious. They both look up to him. Hinata smiles slightly while Naruto grins. Did you hear about me and Hinata? Naruto smirks slightly. Jiraiya, recognizing the smirk, does his famous lecher face. Oh, I see. Well then, Naruto, would you like to give me all the details for my next book? I mean, young love is always so romantic and I know the readers would love it. Jiraiya says innocently. I'm not giving you any information. Naruto says angrily. Information. Hinata looks at him, first looking at Jiraiya and then looking to Naruto. Yes, information on the relationship so I can write some love tips for other people. Jiraiya smiles at the Hyuga heiress. No, he's not. He's the one who writes those dirty books that Kakashi-sensei reads. Naruto yells while pointing his finger at Jiraiya. Oh, come on, Naruto, you have to give me some information. I mean, you know that I'm your sensei and you have to do what I say. Jiraiya whines. I refuse. Naruto folds his arms across his chest. Fine. Well, I must get back to Konoha. Tsunade-chan wants this information pronto. She's not looking for excuses or anything this time for the late information. Jiraiya smiles at the two young ninja in front of him. Be good, Naruto. Jiraiya looks at Naruto before he disappears. Hinata and Naruto stand there for a few minutes wondering if they should go back to the house or not. After 10 minutes of debating they walk back to the house hand in hand, unaware of the three pairs of eyes were watching them. The Akatsuki knew their targets would get stronger over the years, but they thought about how they would wait till after the two before them had K-off the other insect on their hands, Orochimaru. Itachi watched as Hinata and Naruto walked away hand in hand, happy that he now knew the weakness of one of the demon vessels. Kisame watched as his partner eyed the two, wondering what was going through his head as Deidara kneeled down in front of them, watching Hinata closely. She'd make a good prize, Deidara said as he watched Hinata and Naruto disappear from view. Now Deidara, you mustn't jump to conclusions, first we must get the two vessels. Kisame said as Deidara rolled his eyes and looked up at Itachi and Kisame. But after we get them, can I have her? He asks Itachi, who only ignores Deidara altogether. Can I? He asks again as he gets ignored yet again. Fine, you can have her, Itachi says quietly as he walks away with Kisame following close behind. Deidara smirks and gets to his feet. He rushes after Itachi and Kisame, not wanting to be left behind by his two new partners. Training in the Leaf passed by quickly as months rolled by. The three's training led to doing missions for the Leaf village for a while. Desara had calmed down about the whole battle subject since the first time she went off on them. They had now come to realize that there is times when fun is necessary and sometimes where being serious was necessary, but these weren't one of those times. Naruto was happy when he received the letter from Tsunade talking about how the village was doing and about how somewhere after the battle with Orochimaru the new Hokage would be chosen. When the blonde saw this, he jumped for joy as he looked to Toma, who was fast asleep on the couch. I can't believe it. I mean, I might be able to try to get the lure of Hokage. Naruto cheers as he runs down the hall towards Hinata's room. I'm happy for you, Naru-kun, but next time try to knock on my door, and if you want to bust in, please shut the door behind you, she said as she sat on the bed. Sorry Hina-chan, I was just so excited, he exclaims as he plops down on the bed next to her as he looks over the letter once more. I mean, Bar-chan said I could participate since I'd be old enough. I can't wait. He cheers and Hinata smiles warmly at the boy next to her. He had been growing taller again and she still was only 5 feet 6 inches tall. She sighs at this, which catches his attention. Something wrong, Hina-chan? He asks and looks at her with a little worry in his eyes. Nothing's wrong, I'm just thinking about how you keep getting taller and taller while I'm still the same height I was before we left. So, I like your height. He smiles brightly. Of course you do, you tower over me all the time. No, no. You got it all wrong. I like your height because it's easier for me to hug you. He smiles and pulls her close so her head rests on his chest. See? Yeah, she whispers and snuggles in closer. Before she could think of anything else to say, she drifted off into a deep sleep. They had been training for nearly a year and 8 months. The village of Stone was now far from view as they headed towards the village of Clouds. Naruto walked at the head of the group, smiling brightly at what he thought was the last training in a village till they returned home. They had all grown over the past year. Naruto now stood at 6 feet tall and his hair had grown out to look like the Yondimes. Toma stood somewhat next to Naruto. Toma now stood 6 foot 3 inches and he had kept his hair somewhat short so it wouldn't get in his way. They had new clothes on since the old ones they outgrew. Toma looked exactly like Kakashi, but his vest was black and his shirt a light gray. Naruto looked exactly like the Yondime, but he didn't have the white coat on. Desara and Hinata walked in the back. They were both the same height as they were before, but Hinata's hair was longer and almost to her hips. She tied it back with some hair chopsticks and she now wore a skirt about 5 inches above her knee and a fishnet top, a vest over top it, but the vest wasn't loose, it was tight. She had fishnet on her upper left leg and on her lower right leg. She had fishnet down her left arm, but her right arm had bandages on it like Neji's. Desara hadn't changed at all, except she had calmed down and didn't worry about the three quite so much now. I can't wait till we get to the cloud. Naruto cheers. He had become more serious in the past year, but he was still Naruto. He looked back at Desara and Hinata and smiled at the two, getting a smile back from Hinata. But isn't the cloud a dangerous place for a Hyuga? Toma asks and folds his arms across his chest while closing his eyes. Naruto looked at him and wondered about it a minute, then thought back to what happened so many years ago with the kidnapping. I forgot about it, Naruto said and looked back at Hinata. But Hina-chan can handle it. Yeah, Toma-kun, it's not like I'm 4 anymore, I can handle the cloud. Hinata smiles at them, but Toma sighs lightly. You know, we'll be there for the next 4 months and I'll be training you on balance and things like that. Desara said, which caught all of their attention. I have to teach you how to teach others for the battle training you'll do when you return. Desara looks at them all. Tsunade sent me a letter last night. Wait, she sent you a letter but not me. Naruto whines lightly. She said that there will be some Konoha ninja in the cloud which will help us train and help so nothing happens during our stay there. Did she say anything about what team was coming? Hinata asked as the others went back to looking down the road. Desara looks to her and shakes her head no. She only told me how many ninja were being sent, not who they were. If it helps any, they're sending us 3 Junin. Desara said and looked ahead. I wonder who she's sending. Naruto whispers and watches the clouds roll by. Only a 3-man team. I don't know any three-man teams, he thinks to himself as he watches the wind blow the grass over the field. They watched from a distance as the four moved across the field heading towards the cloud. The three pairs of eyes watched closely as the blonde turned to the girl in the back and started talking to her. After a few minutes he turned back to the front and began talking to the other boy in the front. One of the watchers tried to move out but the other one held him back. Before the anxious one could make some excuse to go out, the other told him to shut up. Their third companion finally said to move out as the three disappeared. Naruto looked around the field to see if anyone was around, he found nothing. Did you hear something? Naruto looked to everyone else. No, I didn't hear anything. Hinata looks to him. I think you're hallucinating, Naruto. Toma says simply, which gets to the blonde's temper. I am not hallucinating. Naruto yells at Toma, who just shrugs and ignores Naruto like always. You two stop it, Dasara said, and Naruto bowed his head slightly. Yes, Dasara-sensei. The boys say in unison but in different tones. Naruto's is one of doubt and Toma's is one of annoyance. You know you should listen to Naruto more often, he's mostly right. A voice comes from behind them and they all quickly turn around to find Neji and Lee standing there. They look almost the same as when Naruto and Hinata left. Naruto, my rival, I have come to help. Lee exclaims happily and gives his normal thumbs up and his normal smile until Neji hits him on the back of the head to shut him up. Tsunade sent us to help. Guy-sensei is setting up a place to stay right now in town. Neji says as he puts his hands in his sleeves. Before he can do anything else, Hinata hugs him tight. Hello Hinata-san, he whispers and gently returns the hug to his cousin. When they separate, Hinata and Naruto link hands and begin to talk with Neji. Where Tenten Neji ni-san? Hinata asks and Neji smiles slightly and rubs the back of his head. Well, she's not allowed to go on missions for the time being, Neji says, and he's blushing slightly. Naruto sees this and smiles. Wow, I never knew Neji could blush. Naruto smirks and Neji quickly regains his composure. So why can't Tenten-chan come on any missions, Neji? Naruto asks and Neji clears his throat. She's on medical leave. Neji states simply. Wait, she got hurt? Naruto asks. No. God, you're so dumb sometimes, Toma says as he walks up next to them. He puts his hand out to Neji. I'm Toma Agawa, nice to meet you, Neji. Toma shakes Neji's hand and then shoves his hands back in his pockets. Well then, why is she on medical leave then? Naruto asks and looks at them all. Hinata looks from Naruto then to Neji. Neji ni-san. You didn't, she exclaims, and Neji begins to blush again, knowing that his cousin now knew Tenten's reason for being absent. I did, Neji whispers. Naruto quickly looks at Hinata then to Neji and then back to Hinata. Wait, what did he do? Naruto asks. Well, Tenten and I are expecting a child. Neji whispers and Naruto looks at Neji with his mouth wide open and his eyes bulging somewhat. You what? Naruto exclaims. Naruto, isn't that wonderful? Neji ni-san is going to be a father. Hinata exclaims happily and claps her hands. Now you guys, back to the task on hand. Dasara says and all of them look at her. We still have much to do, so we must hurry to the town and prepare for your last phase of training. She begins to walk towards town with Lee and Toma close behind her. Lee is talking to Toma but Toma is trying to ignore him but is having no luck. Hinata walks beside Neji and Naruto and is talking about how things are in Konoha and with Tenten, and even about her father. It was unusual actually being around someone that wasn't a stranger while training. Naruto had forgotten the feeling of knowing other people around him while in town and he liked it. He smiled as they stood in an empty field without their two senseis. Dasara ordered her 3 students to start working on warming up, which meant jumping jacks and such. Lee liked the idea and joined in as Neji sighed at what the 4 were now doing. Hinata smiled as Lee, Toma, and Naruto were now in a race to see who could get done first. The loser would have to buy lunch and she knew Naruto had no money for the bet. In the end Lee won, which was expected, and Naruto came in second, leaving Toma in the position of buying lunch. They did warm-ups and simple spars between one another till finally Dasara showed up. Okay, now what we'll be doing first are the simple exercises such as the water, tree, rock, and sand exercises. She says and gets 2 confused looks from Neji and Lee. Watch and learn, she says to the 2 as she performs 4 jutsus, 1 summoning 5 trees, 1 summoning a large pond, 1 summoning many large rocks and a rocky hill, and the last summoning a giant space full of sand. Begin with the basics: tree, water, sand, then the rock. Go, she says, and Naruto, Hinata, and Toma hurry towards the trees, quickly climbing up them with no help from their hands, and run down them just the same. They then charge at the water, running across it easily without sinking in. They then move on to the sand. Lee watches closely as Naruto and Toma run across the sinking sand with ease as Neji watches Hinata closely. She runs across half the sand like the others, and then she forms the sand around her ankles and uses it to speed her up, getting her to the end before the others. This begins to play in Neji's head as he thinks of what she could do with it as they move on to the final spot. The rocks seemed hard in Lee's mind, but after Neji saw what they had already done and he watched the chakra in their feet, he knew they could do it, and he was right as they started up the rocks, running on top the sharp edges and making it up and over their obstacle, coming up to Dasara. Naruto skidded to a stop, working on slowing down. Toma quickly dodged Naruto and came to a stop using a small ground jutsu to make her come to a stop, and Hinata flipped over Dasara, doing a twist in the air, and lands on her feet easily and gracefully. Okay, now do it better and faster. Go, Dasara says, and they rush into the course again. This time Lee gets intrigued and begins to run with them. Lee makes it past the tree and water fine, and he collapses when it comes to the sand, but picks back up and improves on the second half of the sand. Neji stays back and watches again, taking in the chakra information in the techniques. When they get to the end, Dasara looks at Neji. Now what, Dasara-sensei? Naruto asks as he takes a deep breath and looks at Lee. And by the way, Lee, good job for your first time on the course. Naruto smiles at his comrade, who smiles back. It's all thanks to the power of youth. Lee cheers. Okay, now I want to see you do it, Hyuga. If you want to train with us, you have to try in all exercises, including this one. Dasara says to Neji and looks at Hinata. I want only the Hyugas to do it this time. Alright, Dasara-sensei, Hinata says and walks up next to Neji. Watch and learn, Neji-ni-san. I've become a lot better than you think. Neji smiles at his cousin. We'll see about that, Hinata-san. It all depends on if you can beat me. He states as he prepares himself. Oh, you'll see. I've worked very hard. Hinata readies herself also. Go, Dasara shouts, and the two Hyugas take off. Neji and Hinata are going about the same speed when they go up and down the tree, but Neji begins to speed up when they get to the water. After the water, Hinata all of the sudden speeds up dramatically and speeds past Neji, quickly finishing the sand trial, which Neji easily passes too, but a little slower. When they come to the rocks, Hinata quickly glides over it as if she was soaring, and Neji tries as he passes it, taking his time like he did in the last one. Hinata skids to a stop and smiles back at Neji, who comes up behind her. It's my first time, so of course I couldn't win. Neji states and looks at Hinata, then at Dasara. There will be other chances, Neji, don't worry about it for now. Dasara says and looks at them all. She does a quick jutsu and all the trial fields disappear in a blink of an eye. Now that that's over, we can move on to the next part of today's training. She looks at Guy, who walks up to them all. I haven't seen you two in a while, so I'd like to see your power of youth. Guy states and folds his arms across his chest. So we've decided to do one-on-one battles today and pairing battles next week. Since we are down one person, I'll find a stand-in for the battle later, but for now one-on-one companions. First up will be Toma and Lee. Dasara says and steps back. If I could have anyone else stand over here by me for safety reasons. Everyone but Lee and Toma stand by Dasara and Guy. You may begin. Dasara says, and Toma sighs at this. Today was going to be a long day and he knew it. My new comrade, I shall show you why I am such a great fighter. Lee cheers as Toma sighs once more, trying to ignore his opponent's words. Bring it on, Toma says, and Lee charges at him. Toma dodges Lee's futile attacks as he throws punches and kicks in Toma's direction. Lee mumbles something as he begins to faster to try to hit his opponent, only to fail in his attempt. Toma quickly dodges the oncoming kick that Lee sends out and trips Lee. I see you only use taijutsu, Toma says and jumps back. He looks to Dasara but keeps one eye on Lee. Dasara-sensei, are the holy and dark arts ruled out? He asks, and Dasara nods her head yes, and Toma looks back at Lee. You're lucky. No, you're lucky, my opponent. Lee charges at Toma and goes to land a blow to his chest, but Toma blocks with his arms. Sorry, I won't be letting you win. Toma quickly kicks Lee back and disappears. Lee looks around quickly but finds nothing. Lee slowly backs up, watching his surroundings, and looks to the others. Lee's not going to win. Toma's got this done and over with already. Naruto says and sighs as he folds his arms across his chest. Guy and Neji look at him and watch Naruto as he seems to be bored. What do you mean? Neji asks, and Hinata looks at Neji and Guy. Well, Toma has initiated one of his top attacks and there's no way of dodging it as we know of. Hinata says and looks back to Lee. But don't worry, Toma won't take it too far. He'll only take it far enough to finish the fight so he can get it over with. Well, Lee, I'm sorry to finish this so soon, but I'd rather fight another day. Toma's voice says to Lee, who is looking around everywhere for who had spoke to find no one. Before Lee can move or react to the sudden wind that has picked up, Toma appears behind him with 6 shadow clones surrounding Lee also. This is over. Lee's mind began to race as he noticed the 7 Tomas around him, unable to tell which one was the real one. Lee looked at them all and took a deep breath as he began to think up a strategy, but it didn't help when Toma came charging in at the taijutsu expert. Toma rushed in at Lee with one thing in mind, temporarily disabling his legs to make him immobile and giving Toma the win. Lee had never seen such speed. In a blink of an eye, Toma was right next to Lee, driving his fist deep into Lee's gut as his 6 clones land kicks to his legs, making Lee collapse to the ground. Toma's clones disappear as Lee collapses to the ground. Lee tries to get to his feet but fails when his legs become unsteady and collapse beneath him. It's over. Toma looks to Dasara and Guy. Guy stares at Toma a moment, then looks to Lee, who lays still on his back thinking of how Toma got so fast. Dasara nods and Toma turns to Lee. If you want, I can help you with your speed. Toma says as he pulls Lee to his feet. Before Lee falls again, Toma does a quick jutsu and Lee's legs become mobile again. Thank you, comrade, for such a display of power. Lee smiles at Toma, who only shrugs. It's no big deal. Toma says as he starts towards the sideline, with Lee following closely behind, starting his O of questions, and in response Toma sighs. Dasara looks at the remaining students and Neji. She thinks for a good solid moment before she smiles one of her evil smiles. Naruto and Hinata see this and sigh heavily at what was about to happen. Next up will be Hinata against Dasara thinks a moment. Neji, she says, and Hinata looks at Neji as Hinata walks out to the training field. Neji follows close behind, looking at Hinata as she cracks her knuckles and faces Neji. I guess you'll get to see how much I've improved right now, Neji-ni-san. I hope you will approve. Hinata says as she shifts down in a position that's almost the Uoken stance, but it isn't. I've learned a new way of fighting. She smiles warmly as Neji shifts into his Uoken stance. Neji watched as Hinata stayed there quietly, not saying a word to her opponent. He wondered if she was taught not to talk during battle or if she was charging up her energy, so he turned on his Byakugan. You may begin. Dasara says as she looks at them both. Hinata stays still and watches Neji closely as he observes the chakra flowing into her legs and hands. He begins to wonder why she would send all her chakra there until she thought about how they gain speed. Toma had done the same thing to his legs in his match against Lee, which meant that must be how they got so fast. Neji watched closely as Hinata didn't move. Lee stared at the two from the sideline as Naruto and Toma smiled, knowing what Hinata was going to do. Neji couldn't take the weight anymore, so he charged in, ready to take out her arm. As Neji charged, Hinata dodged by twirling to the right and landing behind him, landing a solid blow to his back, which he tried to quickly counter only to miss. Hinata-sama, I didn't know you could dodge like that, Neji said as he charged in again with both hands ready to strike her. This time she dodges by flipping over him and landing behind him, facing him, willing and ready. You've seen that dodge before, Neji-ni-san. Why didn't you remember it and dodge it like I know you would? Hinata asks as she shifts down to the ground as he makes a high kick attempt at her and brings it down only to have her use a substitution jutsu, leaving a lily in her place. She hurries up behind him and goes to kick him to the ground, but he rebounds and uses his hand to twirl and land on his feet. Well, maybe it wasn't in my plan, he says, and quickly charges in again, hoping to catch her off balance, only to be dodged again from the left. He quickly counters and finally lands a blow on her leg, but his hand bounces off from a chakra field she created. She smirks as she kicks him in the chest, making him fly back into the ground, but he quickly gets to his feet. I thought you had a plan, but you'll never be as good as Shikamaru. I trained after him, all three of us did, she says as she quickly dodges his left palm and then his right. She keeps dodging palm after palm, but he keeps swinging until she flips over him and lands behind him, dropping down and tripping him with her left leg, which he catches on the way down. Neji now has Hinata's ankle in his hand. He smirks but frowns when she smirks at him. What are you smirking about? Neji whispers to himself, but she quickly pulls out of his grasp, using the chakra in her legs to loosen his grasp by prying his hand open. She quickly flips back by using her hands and lands in a kneeling position. He watches her closely as she slowly rises to her feet. They watched from afar. Deodara smirked as he watched the two Hyugas fight one another, and his prize was winning. He cheered at this as he looked up to his partners. Kisame watched closely, wishing he could suck all of the ninja's chakra out for fun, while Itachi watched Naruto. He was hoping Naruto would have gone up next so he could see what he was capable of, but it didn't seem like things would be going his way. Itachi watched the two fighting Hyugas and looked at Hinata. He knew how weak she was before by watching her fight with his brother, but now she was strong. If she had grown this strong, think of how strong Naruto and the Kyuubi had to be. Itachi, do you think we should strike yet? Kisame asked as he shifted his large samehada on his back. Itachi stayed quiet as usual, and Kisame looked at him, watching the Sharingan watch the Hyuga girl closely. Kisame then looked back to where the action was at when Deodara finally spoke up. I think we should attack now before they get too strong, he says, and looks at Kisame, who only grunts from Deodara's stupidity. You're an idiot, Kisame says simply. The strong he gets, the stronger the Kyuubi. The stronger the Kyuubi, the more happy the master will be. Besides, are you scared to fight them if they get stronger? Kisame says, then asks Deodara mockingly. I am not afraid to fight them. Deodara growls low and harshly. He folds his arms across his chest and watches as the two down below in the field stare at each other expectantly. They should move already, Deodara mumbles and closes his eyes while sighing in boredom. Maybe we'll attack soon, Itachi whispers, which makes both of his partners look at him. They watch as he slowly gives them a smirk and walks away. Kisame quickly follows behind Itachi, as does Deodara, wondering what Itachi's plans are this time. Neji slowly circles Hinata, trying to think where the Byakugan can't see as he slowly observes her gaze. He looks around frantically without showing as he spots no blind spot in her 360-degree radius. Hinata smirks as he begins to do this and stands completely still, unready to attack or defend. Give up, Neji-ni-san, you're way too slow, she says to him, but he quickly gets out of her grip and jumps back. She watches as he takes a deep breath and watches her closely, wondering what she would do next. She stands still yet again as Neji tries to formulate a plan in his head. She takes a deep breath and lets the wind cool her down. Naruto smiles at her to receive a wide smile back from her. Neji loses it at this. She's acting so casual and he can't take it. As she's smiling at Naruto, Neji charges in and readies his rotation that he had been working on. Hinata looks at him out of the corner of her eye, and before Neji can try to rotation, she kicks him back into the ground. I refuse to give up. Neji slowly rises to his feet and watches her expectantly. Hinata-sama, come at me like you're serious, he says, and only gets a smirk from her. Neji-ni-san, I don't want to make this end so quickly, I'd rather play a little longer, she whispers and folds her arms across her chest. Neji stood before Hinata, irritated at the woman before him. He couldn't believe what she said to him, play with him. She wasn't the shy girl he used to know. This was a strong woman who planned to take her clan back and use her new power to change the Hyugas forever. He smiled to himself at the thought of it. No more caged bird seal and no more pain like the past clan chiefs did. He wondered about how she could change it. Well, he knew that Naruto would most likely become Hokage as he planned, since he was the Yondaime son and he was strong enough to take what he wanted. Like the heart of the woman standing before him. Neji was happy she had love now, the one thing she didn't have as she was growing up. But one thing bothered him, how she had changed. Hinata-sama, you know what you must do in this fight, but do not tarnish the Hyuga's pride, Neji says as he shifts into the Urukan stance once more. Neji, do you believe that I would tarnish your pride? No, I'd never do that to you. I merely wish to show you that I have the power to save the clan and nothing more. She smiles warmly at him with her arms folded across her chest. Neji-ni-san, it's not as if I wish to do this. You're just not fighting as well as you used to. I'm not trying to push my power too much. I'm still holding it back so I don't injure you. Well, it's not my fault you've become so strong since you left, you'd make a fine clan chief. He says while thinking about what she had said. He thinks for a moment about her comment of holding back and thinks back to the beginning of the battle when she switched to her stance and sent chakra in her legs trying to find a weak spot as they talked. Hinata, your opponent can evaluate the situation if you stand still for too long. Dasara states and Guy shakes his head yes in agreement. Hinata looks at Dasara and Guy and nods lightly then looks to Neji. Well Neji-ni-san, let's get moving shall we? Hinata smiles and disappears in a cloud of smoke. Neji quickly looks around trying to find her but fails miserably. Neji quickly charges into the cloud trying to mask himself from her but it fails when the smoke blows away with a weak wind jutsu. Neji quickly looks to the user to find Hinata up in the air smirking as she heads towards him. He quickly moves as she lands where he once stood facing him. She quickly throws a punch at him which he dodges. Nice way to try to trick me Hinata-sama, but next time try to make the wind come from a different direction so the opponent can't find your location. Neji says as he dodges another punch from Hinata. What if I said I did it on purpose? Hinata says through punches. She smirks as she quickly lands a blow to his left cheek sending him a few feet back but he quickly recovers before he hits the ground. He watches her closely noticing a small spot in her side where the chakra doesn't cover. He smirks and charges in again. She quickly dodges his attacks as he plans on how to get into the spot since it's so heavily guarded. He quickly turns and tries to puncture her stomach with his hand but missed as she does a backflip into a handstand then to her feet. Neji charges in once more trying to formulate a plan while holding his arm. You know, Hinata hasn't even shown us these graceful moves of hers. Dasara states and Lee and Guy look up at her. She's been practicing on her own in secret on her own style of fighting. But if she can do this good against Neji, wonder about how well she'll do against her father. Dasara says as she folds her arms across her chest watching the battle closely just like Toma and Naruto. Naruto gives Hinata a wide smile knowing that she was trying to prove herself just like back when she fought Neji in the Chunin exams. Sorry Hinata-sama but I found something very interesting. Neji states. Everyone on the sideline looks at Neji wondering what he meant. Hinata shifts into her fighting stance to raise her guard. What did you find Neji-ni-san? I'd really like to know about your discoveries. Hinata says as she watches the other Junin closely wondering if he found something worthwhile. Neji smirks at her and shifts into his fighting stance. I've found your weak spot, after analyzing your attacks. Neji says and gets everyone's full attention. Naruto stares at Neji then looks at Hinata, her eyes filled with confusion from the statement. But Hinata-chan doesn't have a weak spot, we tried to make sure of that. Toma says and looks at Dasara and Naruto to find a worried look in Naruto's eyes and a look of acceptance in Dasara's. Dasara-sensei. I know of the weak spot. Dasara says and closes her eyes. Toma and Naruto stare at her for a moment before Naruto speaks up. Dasara-sensei, are we going to fix it? He asks quietly. Yes, we'll fix it after this battle. I didn't fix it before only because I thought it would be an opportune moment to test you all for finding weak spots and in this case, Neji's test was to find it and reach it. He hasn't reached it yet but he has the first step done in any case. Dasara says and looks back at the match. Neji looks confident and Hinata is guarding herself for whatever may come. But he still might not win depending on her resolve. I won't let you get to it Neji-ni-san. Hinata states as he charges at her ready to attack. She blocks the attack with one of her arms as he attacks with his leg. She grabs his leg with her free hand and flings him away. He smirks as he quickly recovers and lands on his feet looking at her. He charges in again and she dodges him this time. Hinata-sama, I refuse to lose to you. I will reach that spot even if I have to disable you. Neji says as he charges in at her again. She blocks his attack and looks at him to find his determination. Before she can block his hand it shoves into her left side. She groans and coughs out B. Naruto and Toma stare at her unable to say anything as Dasara looks at Neji knowing that he had passed. Hinata quickly jumps away trying to regain her composure. She puts her hand on her side and coughs up a little more B but then she stands up straight with her arms at her sides, the B still rolling out of her mouth. She smirks and shifts into her stance. I can't allow you to do any more damage Neji-ni-san, I have to finish this. She says as she disappears, and before he can turn around he's shoved forward by two hands. He stumbles a moment and quickly turns to find Hinata in the Yuukan stance. But you have your own, he starts as she smirks. But I can still do this, and I've made it much stronger. She says as she readies herself. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. She yells as she begins to strike him at an unbelievable speed. As she serves the final blow, Neji flies backwards into the ground and stays limp on it, unconscious. Hinata smiles knowing the battle was over and drops to her knees. It's over, she says as she pitches forward. Naruto hurries and catches her, holding her in his arms. You okay? He whispers gently, knowing she was still awake. Yeah, just a little sore in the side and my chakra dropped down below 50%, so I'm gonna need to rest. She smiles as he lifts her and carries her to the sideline, and Lee helps Neji to the sideline. Naruto lays her down, and as he does she slowly sits up, beginning to heal her side wound with her now glowing green hands. She looks up at Lee and motions him to bring Neji over to her, and as soon as she's done healing herself she begins to heal Neji's wounds, for he now lies beside her. The next match will be much more different. It will be the test of strength to protect, and if you want to become Hokage Naruto you have to pass. Dasara says while closing her eyes. Naruto quickly looks up at her when he hears her say the word, Hokage. Dasara-sensei, you mean I get to? Naruto asks as he quickly gets to his feet with excitement. This will only be the first of the 3 tests, she says and looks at Naruto. Soon it will test you with the other toe when you get back to Konoha. She smiles when he bounds up in excitement and hugs her tight. Naruto, get off me, she groans. He quickly lets go of her and takes a step back, smiling. Sorry for hugging you so tight, Dasara-sensei, he says while rubbing his head like he usually does. Dasara looks at Guy, who nods in compliance. Dasara then looks at Naruto, ready to announce something. Tsunade sent Guy for a reason. The reason is that he is to test you in the taijutsu part of the test, I am to test you in the ninjutsu part of the first test, and Kurenai will test you in the genjutsu part. The first test is to be of strength. You must win at least 2 of them in order to pass the first test. Dasara says and closes her eyes. The second test is to be an exam on paper about Konoha and its history. And the third will be both political and jutsus, she says and looks at Naruto. So the next match will be Guy versus Naruto, she states, and Naruto quickly goes out to the fighting spot as Guy walks slowly over to face Naruto. Well, let's see how the power of youth has worked on you, Guy exclaims and does his usual pose to show off. Naruto sighs at this, trying to ignore the embarrassing scene before him. Guy looks at Naruto and smiles. Show me the power of youth, he says, and Naruto shifts so he's kneeling slightly and his fists are in front of him. Bring it on, Guy-sensei, Naruto says as he looks at Guy and watches him shift into a stance somewhat like Lee's. Guy charges at Naruto with chakra running into his legs and fists. He begins to throw fast punches and kicks at Naruto, but Naruto dodges them quickly as he tries to think of how to stop Guy or slow him down. The power of youth flows through you, Uzumaki, Guy exclaims as he keeps sending the fast punches and kicks at Naruto. Naruto groans lightly and quickly grabs Guy's leg and flings him back over his shoulder. Guy recovers and lands on one hand. He twirls quickly, then gets to his feet looking at Naruto, who's facing him with his hands in the hand sign of the ox. What's this? Using ninjutsu or genjutsu fails you automatically, Guy says and puts his hands on his hips. Naruto smirks at his remark and Guy lifts an eyebrow. It's a taijutsu, which helps power up all my attacks and helps my chakra flow easier but harder in each solid blow. Guy-sensei, you might want to be careful, I might hurt you. Naruto disappears and Guy quickly looks around for the youth, listening to the beating feet against the ground, wondering if it was Naruto running around or some stray animal. Before Guy could trace where the tracks came from, a hard kick contacted with his face, sending him flying into the ground. Naruto stood next to where Guy once stood, smirking, a red chakra emanating from him, but it wasn't the normal demonic chakra. Dasara and Hinata watched closely, knowing that the demon was sealed but that chakra was very unusual. Naruto walked up to Guy and put his hand out to him to help the dizzy man up. Sorry, Guy-sensei, Naruto apologized as the chakra disappeared. That's alright, Uzumaki. That was an excellent kick and I'd like you to accept my defeat, Guy says as he puts an arm around Naruto's shoulder. You're definitely a student of my greatest rival Kakashi. There's no doubt in it anymore. Guy laughs heartily only to get groans and a cheer from the members on the sideline. The rest of the day was slow. Naruto had wanted to fight Dasara there and now, but she said when it was closer to the end of the training she would. There was still a few weeks to go. The hotel they stayed in was 2 people per room with 2 beds. Guy and Lee roomed together, as did Toma and Neji. Dasara was to room with Hinata, but the young Hyuga snuck out in the middle of the night to go to Naruto's room and Dasara did nothing to stop her. Naruto-kun, you asleep? Hinata whispers as she slowly opens his door to find the room dark and quiet. She quickly went inside and quietly but quickly shut the door behind her. Naruto-kun. She looks around as she slowly begins to walk towards the bed. When she reaches the bed, she finds Naruto fast asleep under the covers. She smiles warmly as she sits on the bed next to him. Before she can say anything like, "Good night," or, "Sweet dreams," Naruto's strong arms wrap around her and pull her on top of him. "Hello, angel. Come to lay with me," he whispers as he smiles at her. This in conclusion gets a very dark blush from the Hyuga. Dasara-sensei finally stopped trying to stop you from coming, I see, he says and rolls over so she lays next to him and they're facing each other. He pulls the blankets up to her chin and looks at her. You should try to get some sleep. We have a very early practice tomorrow, he says, but he watches as she opens her mouth to say something. Naruto. About that red chakra earlier, she whispers, and as she mentions the chakra, Naruto closes his eyes. It wasn't the demon fox's normal chakra. And it wasn't human chakra. Or a combination of both. So what was it, Naruto-kun? She asks quietly, but she only gets a sigh for an answer. They both stay quiet a moment before Naruto speaks. I don't know. I wanted to beat him in one hit and it just suddenly popped up. It's not like I was controlling it or trying to Guy sensei or anything, I just. Don't worry about it, Naruto-kun. She whispers and holds him close to her. He relaxes in her arms and falls fast asleep, not saying another word. She smiles warmly and falls asleep shortly after him. The morning training started off well, but when they added Lee and Neji to the mix, all of a sudden everything went wrong. Naruto was about to pound Neji's face in as Lee tried to hold Neji back and Toma hold Naruto back as Hinata stood between the two. After that, they began to argue about the whole problem with having 5 people training and making the group too large or too uneven. The day in Hinata's mind couldn't get any worse, but she had spoken too soon. Neji, I told you that you need to back up a little more when you do dropping push-ups. You smacked Toma in the face for crying out loud. Naruto yelled at the Hyuga in front of him, who had his arms folded across his chest. It's not my fault that you couldn't give me enough space in order to do so, Neji says simply, and Naruto's face turns red in anger. You're blaming me. Naruto growls loudly and ferociously enough to make Lee take a step away from him. Hinata and Toma sigh in unison and Toma runs a hand through his hair. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but in the end it still turned out that way. Yes, I'm blaming you. Do you have a problem with that? Neji says and lifts an eyebrow. Yes, I do. It is not my fault, it's yours. Naruto growls and clenches his fists at his side. Toma steps between them and puts a hand to both of them to hold them back if they move towards one another. Now you two, stop fighting, Toma says, only to get a grunt from Neji and a growl from Naruto. Now, I didn't want you two to fight over what happened, so how about you apologize to each other and drop the subject altogether? Toma asks, but the other two just begin giving each other evil glares as if Toma weren't even there. Toma sighs and walks away, leaving Hinata and Lee to watch the glaring between the rivals. Neji and Naruto finally did something as they turned their backs to each other and walked away in silence, leaving Hinata with Lee, which scared the S out of her. What was she supposed to say to the hyperactive boy next to her? That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.